Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Catalyze Yourself. I am Gayatri, your host, and today we move into episode 21 of season 3. When we embrace self-sabotage. All throughout this season, we've been staying very close to the conditioned patterns that can begin shaping how we think, feel, choose, and how we express ourselves when pressure narrows our conscious presence of mind. We have looked at what happens when familiarity begins to feel like our safety, when our conditioning can carry more authority than our inner truth, when we continue functioning while absorbing a cost that has not been allowed into our discernment. And just in our last week's episode, we stayed with what happens when control begins to determine which parts of our experiences are even allowed to influence what we recognize as our truth. And today, we will look at yet another conditioned pattern where the choices that appear to work against what we consciously want can still be the choices we make, because within our mind, our nervous system, and our body, they can feel familiar, reasonable, and even protective. Self-sabotage is another pattern that can be camouflaged in reasonableness, and we may find it showing up in so many ways. It may be where we delay an opportunity we have been working towards. It may be where we pull away from a relationship we said we know we wanted. It may be where we keep our work from being fully seen, even when we desire our work to be seen. And if there's one message our entire season has carried throughout, it is that our choices do not form in isolation from the rest of our lived experience. And our conditioned patterns can all be unique to those lived experiences. When it comes to choices that can sabotage what our self wants, these life experiences around worth, trust, belonging, identity, or safety can become our primary influences. It could be that we learned a sense of unworthiness. It could be that we know we are worthy, while at the same time, we learned that others cannot be trusted to respect our worth. It could be that our learned pattern is to anticipate the worst when we are under pressure. These are all conditioned meanings that can become active separately, together, or in changing combinations based on what we have lived, what is happening now, and what our mind, our nervous system, and our body have learned throughout our lifetime to protect. So this is not a conversation about judging and accusing ourselves of secretly wanting pain, failure, rejection, or loss. It is an invitation for us to look more honestly at how we can sincerely want something and still become less available to receive it when its arrival begins to challenge what our conditioning has taught us about our worth, what can be trusted, what we can expect from life, or what receiving something different may actually require from us. And this is where there could be a very deep distinction within our inner world, because wanting and receiving are not the same internal experience. We can want something while it remains safely far away or within our imagination. Receiving it asks us to live inside a different experience. It may ask us to be seen more fully, to tolerate uncertainty, to trust another person, to trust our own judgment, to accept care without immediately earning it or repaying it, to allow an established belief about ourselves to be contradicted, or to remain present when the outcome is not yet known. And for our mind, our nervous system, and our body, that can carry meanings that go far beyond the visible opportunity itself. Self-sabotage can carry real consequences, and understanding those consequences asks us to hold honesty and compassion together. It asks us to see what our choice is making less possible, even when we desire it, while also understanding what that choice may be trying to preserve or protect. When what we want remains at a distance, our desire of it can feel very clear. It can feel like a want that would be wonderful to have. We can imagine work that is more meaningful, a relationship where we are met with consistency and care, an opportunity that allows our abilities to be fully recognized, support that does not require us to carry everything alone, rest that genuinely restores us, a life that can feel more aligned with who we understand and know ourselves to be. While these possibilities remain in the future, we can hold them without having to live inside what they would ask us to change today. The opportunity is still an idea. The relationship is still a hope. The work is still being prepared. The support is still something we wish we had been offered. And because the possibility is remaining at a distance from us, we are not being asked to receive it. Wanting allows us to remain connected to the possibility, and receiving asks our mind, our nervous system, and our body to enter a reality that may be very different from what we already know how to live within. An opportunity that can feel exciting in our imagination now requires an answer from us. Work that we wanted others to recognize now has to be shown before we know how it will be received. Someone begins offering the consistency we believed we wanted, and then the relationship starts carrying and asking for vulnerability of being genuinely seen and known, which could be a space of fear that needs to be overcome in the present. Support becomes available, and receiving it asks us to acknowledge that we cannot or no longer want to carry everything alone. A change we've been asking for starts arriving, and with it comes the possibility that the identity or the role or the way of comfort and living that has made us recognizable to ourselves may also need to change. Under pressure, this is often where our inner world can collapse into our conditioned patterns. We may still want what is available. Our desire does not have to disappear for our participation to begin slowing down. Hope may still be there, and so may our unease. Our cognition may begin noticing every practical concern connected to that possibility. And some of those concerns may be valid, and some may deserve our consideration. And at the same time, our attention may become increasingly drawn towards the only information that supports delay, distance, or even a withdrawal from our own side. Our emotions may carry excitement for the opportunity, the possibility, along with fear, care alongside suspicion, longing alongside shame, relief alongside grief, for what receiving this may ask us to leave behind. Our conscious awareness may understand that the opportunity is real, while our subconscious reaches towards a response that has protected us before. Our deeper unconscious may recognize that receiving what is here would challenge something more entrenched and established within us. Even when we cannot articulate and name what that is, our nervous system may begin to prepare for rejection, disappointment, exposure, loss, increased expectations, or the possibility that what is being offered may not stay, may not remain. And our body may reflect all of it. We may feel our chest tighten, our stomach churn as we prepare to respond. We may become restless when we try to sit with the decision. We may lose energy around work that once felt meaningful. We may feel an urge to move away, delay, distract ourselves, or create enough of a distance that the possibility no longer feels here, no longer feels immediate. And in the end, what we see is that our response is delayed. The work remains almost ready, so it does not have to start yet. The conversation that could deepen connection keeps moved to another day. The support is declined because accepting it feels more complicated than doing it all alone. We may begin focusing on a flaw in what is being offered to us. We may question the sincerity of the care that is being offered to us. We may reduce what we ask. So receiving less does not feel like a loss. We may hold back information that would allow us to be more fully known. We may keep a part of ourselves outside of a relationship so that if it does end, not all of us was placed inside of it. And from the outside, these choices can look cautious, practical, thoughtful, independent. Sabotaging of ourself happens when the information that supports movement away from what you truly want is repeatedly given more influence, while the information that could support receiving what we truly want is minimized, distrusted, or prevented from changing the conclusion we have already begun forming. So in order to understand this pattern, we must slow down, yes, and we must also focus on the relationship between what we consciously say we want, what we consciously know we want, and our repeated choices that continue making that less possible. We may notice that the reasons to step away become more convincing as the possibility moves closer. We may notice that uncertainty feels harder to tolerate when receiving becomes real. We may notice that once the opportunity fades away, once the relationship becomes distant, once the work is no longer being evaluated, or the support is no longer available, part of us feels disappointed, while there's another part of us that feels relief. To understand ourselves, we must pay attention to that sense of relief. The hurt of the loss will be there. The sense of relief that comes up underneath all of that hurt, that space carries information. It may show us that the possibility was asking our mind, our nervous system, and our body to enter an experience for which we did not yet feel prepared. Receiving what we wanted may have challenged what we learned in the past about our worth. It may have asked us to trust an external world we have experienced as inconsistent. It may have asked us to trust our own judgment, capacity, or even ability to recover. It may have brought us closer to being seen, more intimacy, more responsibility, or change that our familiar or comfortable way of protecting ourselves knew how to navigate, knew how to hold. And this is where the contradiction starts beginning to make more sense. Not receiving can hurt and still feel very familiar inside of us. The opportunity being lost or passing may disappoint us, but the disappointment may fit perfectly with what we already believe happens to people like us. The unavailable person moving away or remaining unavailable may cause pain, but it may also protect us from the deeper exposure of being fully received by someone who is available. The work, staying unseen, may preserve the longing for recognition while also protecting us from being fully evaluated. Support not reaching us may reinforce the belief that we must carry everything alone, while also allowing us to remain inside an identity built around being capable, needed, or just self-sufficient. The familiar outcome does not have to feel good in order to feel like that was the foregone conclusion that we would have reached anyway. We may already know how to live inside of that disappointment, that loss. We may already know how to organize ourselves around mistrusting the world. We may already know the experiences of being overlooked, unsupported, rejected, or just always staying almost ready. What we may not yet know is how to remain connected to ourself when life brings us an experience that does not confirm our conclusions. And this does not mean that we are consciously choosing pain because pain is what we prefer. It simply means that what is familiar can feel a little bit more predictable than what contradicts the internal world. Our nervous system, our body knows, have already learned to navigate. The anticipated outcome can begin influencing how we enter the experience before our experience of going through it in real time has the opportunity to happen. And this is the recognition that what we expect can influence what we notice, how we interpret uncertainty, what we express, what we withhold, how much of ourselves we allow into an experience, and what we move away from before the outcome is even known. Our expectations becomes part of our participation. And when the eventual outcome resembles what we expected, it can feel like proof that our view of ourselves or the world was accurate all along. And at the same time, embracing self-sabotage does not mean we want this pain and hurt and disappointment. It does not mean we secretly enjoy losing opportunities, damaging relationships, remaining unseen, or living without the care and support we genuinely desire. And it does not mean that our self is divided into one healthy part and one self-destructive part that is deliberately working against us. Our cognition, our emotions, our conscious, our subconscious, our unconscious, our nervous system, and our body remain part of one integrated human experience, the intelligence of our mind. Our entire being carries the intelligence of our mind, and all parts of our mind carry different information. The potential for us making choices that can sabotage what we want is where what we consciously want may also carry meanings our conditioning has connected to exposure to danger, loss, disappointment, responsibility, or instability. And when those meanings become active, protection can begin shaping our choices. When we embrace self-sabotage, we are choosing to hold on to the familiar protective patterns that can move us away from what our needs and our wants are asking for. We may make room for these patterns and keep returning to it without fully realizing that we are doing so. We may organize our choices around the conclusion that we are already expecting. We may protect the explanation these patterns give us because that explanation sounds practical and cautious and responsible and independent or even realistic. And we may experience that brief reduction of stress when the possibility we wanted becomes less approachable, less immediate. And that relief does not necessarily come because the opportunity is gone. It comes because the uncertainty that surrounded that opportunity no longer exists. We no longer have to wonder whether we are worthy of what is being offered. We no longer have to trust that another person will remain reliable. We no longer have to find out whether our work can withstand the scrutiny of being seen and evaluated. We no longer have to face the possibility that receiving support may change how we understand our own strength. We no longer have to live inside the stress between what our conditioning is expecting and what our current present moment is bringing us. Our familiar conclusions are restored at all times. When we embrace self-sabotage, what we are embracing is our internal prediction that the outcome preserves or confirms. And this is what becomes a reinforcing cycle. A missed opportunity will strengthen the belief of our unworthiness. A relationship that gets broken may reinforce our mistrust. And this is where self-sabotage can become more than even a behavior. The visible behavior may be one of delay, of withdrawal, of avoidance, of partial commitment, of over-preparation, mistrust, distancing emotionally, or the refusal of others supporting us. But the deeper pattern is the way our choices can begin protecting an established understanding of ourselves and the world from being contradicted. A conditioned belief of unworthiness may not simply tell us that what we do not deserve is what is being offered. It may shape how much of that offer we are allowing ourselves to receive instead. A worldview organized around mistrust may not just tell us the world is unsafe. It may, but what instead it may be doing is shape how we interpret care coming our way, consistency around us, opportunities, and the uncertainty before we've had enough time to see and understand and for the opportunity to truly reveal what it is. And once we recognize that anticipation can shape how partially or defensively we can enter into our present moment, we can then begin to look at our participation without turning that recognition into judgment or blame. Recognizing our participation does not mean making ourselves responsible for every painful outcome we have ever experienced. What belongs to us is the inquiry, the curiosity into how we expected and what we expected may have influenced what we noticed, what we distrusted, what we expressed or even withheld, what we accepted, and how fully we allowed ourselves to remain within that experience. And this allows us to understand the protective choices our mind, our nervous system, and our body made without judging ourselves for having made them. And as choice begins to return back to us, the change does not remain only within our internal world, because when we become more available to what we consciously want, it may also mean becoming less available for the roles, expectations, and relationship dynamics that kept the familiar outcome intact. And at the same time, we may become more available for roles, expectations, and relationship dynamics that is aligned with what we truly want. We may begin by asking for the consistency we once believed we could not receive. We may start by allowing care to reach us without immediately questioning it or pushing it away. We may start sharing what we previously held back, or we may step away from patterns that repeatedly confirmed unworthiness or that mistrust. And those around us may have known us through our conditioned patterns, through our accommodation, our emotional distance, our availability or lack thereof, our silence or willingness to accept less. And our different choices now can change what they're able to expect or access from us. And this is where choosing differently may begin asking for more boundaries, not as disconnection, but as a way our relationship starts making room for ourselves. So we are consciously present and we are no longer subconsciously participating or even intentionally willing to sabotage ourselves. And with that, we come to the close of today's episode. Today, we stayed with self-sabotage as a conditioned pattern that can remain difficult to recognize because the choices it produces can feel reasonable and practical and cautious or even protective while we are making them. We looked at the distinction between wanting something and receiving. When what we want remains at a distance, we can stay connected to the possibility of it without ever having to experience what its arrival can ask us to change. And under pressure, this is where our inner world may collapse into the conditioned patterns our mind, our nervous system, and our body may already know how to navigate. And for some of us, a learned sense of unworthiness may influence how much of what is being offered we allow ourselves to even receive. And for some of us, mistrust may shape how we understand another person's care, consistency, or intention. And for some of us, anticipating the worst may begin influencing how partially or defensively we enter our current moments. Our behavior can be what brings that pattern to our attention. But beneath the behavior may be a choice that is protecting an established understanding of ourselves and the world from being contradicted. When we embrace self-sabotage, we are not embracing pain because pain is what we want. We are not secretly enjoying disappointment, rejection, or loss, despite our self-talk. We may be holding on to a familiar protective pattern because the internal prediction it carries feels more trustworthy than an experience that has not yet come true, unfolded, that we have experienced. When the possibility moves away, we no longer have to wonder whether we are being worthy of what is being offered. We no longer have to find out whether another person will remain loyal or faithful. We no longer have to face what receiving support, recognition, care, or change may ask us to reconsider about ourselves. And the sense of relief that may exist underneath the hurt may be showing us that our mind, our nervous system, and our body no longer have to remain inside of that tension between what our conditioning expected for us and what our present experience may be offering for us. And restoring choice does not mean forcing ourselves to trust what is untrustworthy, accept every opportunity, override caution that reflects the reality of our present experiences. It simply means allowing what is happening in our current moment now to carry enough influence that a conditioned, predetermined conclusion does not decide the outcome before our present experience of it does. And as our choices begin changing, our relationships may change with them. We may become more available to receiving care while becoming less available to relationships built around our emotional distance. We may begin asking for consistency where we once accepted the predictability of uncertainty. We may express what we previously withheld. And these changes may not feel comfortable for everyone around us. They may not initially feel comfortable with us either, because our conditioning may have connected their familiarity to roles, belonging, loyalty, stability, or love. And now I want to invite all of us to sit with a few reflective considerations. Where in our lives have we sincerely wanted something, while noticing that our availability for it began changing as soon as it started moving closer? And when what we wanted did not come our way, was there a sense of relief underneath all of that disappointment? And if so, what uncertainty did that relief allow us to not experience? These are invitations to become more aware of what is participating in our choices, so we can understand what our protection has been trying to preserve and what it is now making less possible for us. If today's conversation resonated, I would love for all of us to remain connected in this work. Please share your reflections and experiences through the platforms where you're listening from, or connect with me directly. And please do share this episode with anyone you feel may find value in joining us in this conversation. And in our next episode, episode 22, when boundaries feel like betrayal, we will stay with what can happen when choosing differently begin changing access, roles, expectations that we have shaped within our relationships. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Gayatri, your host, and until next time, let us keep noticing where our choices move us away from what we want repeatedly, and keep meeting our conditioned patterns with honesty. Keep making room for our present self to experience our current moments absolutely and completely.